Today, I'll be talking with Tyler Amundson, Director of Mission and Development at Allies in Aging in Billings, Montana. We had a wide-ranging conversation on everything from nonprofit mergers, food deserts, and even a bit about funeral home directors and their connection to Meals on Wheels. All that and much more on this episode of Behind the Meal.
Welcome to Behind the Meal. Join Dave Cowling as he dives into the stories of Meals on Wheels and introduces us to the incredible people and organizations that make it all happen.
Today we've got Tyler Amundson, Director of Mission and Development at Allies in Aging. Tyler was Executive Director for Big Sky Senior Services before their recent merger with Allies in Aging, where he continues their mission for seniors across this community. He's leading strategic initiatives and fundraising, among a lot of other things that I'm sure we'll get into. So, Tyler, thanks for joining us today.
Dave, thanks for having me. I'm excited. This is fun.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, it's always good to talk with other programs, and I'm sure we all have heard many times, if you know one Meals on Wheels program, you know one Meals on Wheels program.
Exactly. They're so unique. I think a lot of times folks don't realize how unique they are, Dave, so I love that. So.
No, it's sometimes I don't realize it. It's great. Well, you've got programs that are just one or two people working out of a church basement making sandwiches, and then you've got large programs with wraparound services and lots of staff, kind of similar to what you're doing, that are really helping improve lives just beyond delivering that meal.
Definitely. And we've got large and small in our area too, so we know what the challenges are for lots of different levels there. So
for sure. Well, speaking of that, tell us a little bit about the community you're serving and a little bit about Allies in Aging.
Sure. So I'm located in Billings, Montana. Town's about 130,000 people. We actually serve the whole county, though. So town's that's about 130,000 people. We've got another small community that's about 8,000 in that county, and then lots smaller other ones in our county. And so we're tasked to serve the whole county with senior services. We always joke like, Billings feels kind of like a city, but the only reason it feels like a city is because it's not close to anything bigger than it for like 500 miles. So
by comparison,
totally, yeah.
Well, I could say I've been to Montana a few times, Yellowstone, and then Lewiston, Montana. I spent a couple of days there with some friends.
You've seen some good spaces then. So.
It was great. Well, so it sounds like you're really serving a variety of areas, kind of maybe more urban, more rural.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges you see in serving those kinds of communities out of one space?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest challenge I see, especially as we watch our drivers go out to different places, is just the variety of living conditions for folks, from apartment buildings to trailers. Some folks are up a dirt road. And so I know even one of the questions our program constantly has to juggle with is how far out can we send drivers from our main site? Because our county's big, and there's a lot of space to cover, a lot of territory that isn't closely connected to roads and stuff like that.
When we think of rural, I think in most places, we don't even think about whether they're connected to roads. I mean, they're obviously connected to roads.
I love that.
That's a whole nother challenge. I mean,
absolutely.
You mentioned, getting volunteers out to those spaces. What, where are you getting a lot of your volunteers from? Are they coming from those particular communities or from partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, where I see our volunteer pool come from is, one, we have some long-term dedicated volunteers, so I don't think we have to do as much hunting as others do sometimes. One of the drivers that I went out on a ride along with has been volunteering with Meals on Wheels. He used to live in Alaska too, but he's been volunteering for something like 25 or 30 years with Meals on Wheels in some way. So pretty lucky to have that consistent group of folks, Dave, for sure.
Was Alaska just too rural for him? He wanted to get to a bigger city?
No, he actually they lived and worked in Alaska, but his family was from the area, so they moved back here. It was really fun to chat with him about it. I worked for the state of Alaska for years, and then when they were ready to retire, they wanted to be closer to his wife's parents at the time. So that was cool. Yeah, and I think the rest of our volunteers, we do a lot of work to talk about our program and all of our volunteer opportunities. So that's one of the blessings of the larger organization we are, is we have lots of different ways folks can volunteer. And so we are constantly going out and say like, hey, if you just have an hour a week or you have a shorter term, let us know. And one of the unique things, Dave, we just had to start doing with Meals on Wheels, just to show that it's not all, roses and amazingness in our side of things. We do realize that we're coming up short on a few routes for us, especially about 5 routes right now. And so we're actually developing what we're calling a flex pool, which is a group of folks who are committed to help out, but are more willing to be called like a substitute teacher would be, like the morning of, hey, could you come help out? And a larger group than we've had to do in the past. So.
Well, I'm sure that helps out in a lot of those spaces. So, well, it's one thing I want to get into for sure, but that before I forget that, I thought about, speaking of the urban rural kind of piece of it, when you're living into maybe the more urban spaces, do you have a central kitchen you're delivering out of, or you're catered?
That's a good question. No, we do have a central kitchen at our main site here in Billings, and they produce all the meals for all the Meals on Wheels, even the ones outside of our main community. So Laurel's our other smaller community. That's probably the bigger one in the county. That's about 8,000 folks. And we produce the meals even for them to send out as well.
But there's not so they're all going out from one space. They're not going out to another location or anything like that. Like a hub and spoke. So we have one main building, and then our Meals on Wheels go out to Laurel. We have another place in an area of our town called the Heights, and then we have a few that go out to Shepherd, which is a little bit farther out. And those kind of act as spokes for a few more volunteers to go from. So, yeah. Do you do specialty meals, like for, specialty diets or anything like that?
Yeah, we do a little bit. We help make sure, especially diabetic needs for folks. We do some adjustments there. We haven't quite cracked like the gluten-free for all those folks, but we try to do that a little bit more if we can. But the diabetic and dairy stuff is the stuff we can watch for some folks. So.
Okay. And when you're looking at kind of your aging community there, what are there some things that kind of jump out about, like, is there certain segments? Is there, new populations, whatever it may be?
One of the biggest, most interesting things for us with our aging community is how many of them don't have relatives living close anymore.
Oh, sure.
So one of the phenomenons in Montana especially is most kids move on somewhere else, is what we're seeing. So our population is quite a bit older. And so in most of the work I've done over the years, and even especially with our Meals on Wheels, that's what we're finding is a lot of these folks don't have family to step in. So actually a lot of times neighbors are making the recommendation for help with Meals on Wheels over a family member even.
I suppose you probably get some family members too calling from other states they want that check-in.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've had folks be pretty persistent, and a few times, it's that dialogue with them of like, hey, if you can make sure you visit your loved one once or twice a year, that would help us to kind of see how they do. And, but yeah, we've had folks call and be pretty like insistent, like, have you checked on them? Like, how's it going? That kind of thing. So, yeah.
Which is nice, but to your point, it'd be nice if they knew out already too.
Hey, call your parents every once in a while, Dave. That's all that good advice that you get, right? Just call them every once in a while.
I keep telling my son, he's still living here, but I got to keep pushing it in now and drive it into him.
Yeah, definitely.
You kind of mentioned your other services that you're providing. Now, I mentioned in the intro, you just recently went through a merger. I say recently from what I saw. My guess is it's been going on though, probably long before it was in the news.
Yeah, it
You know,
actually went really quick, Dave, to be totally honest.
okay,
We did it intentionally fairly quick so that we could keep services rolling. So,
well, that makes sense.
but yeah, it started last February and we're already all the way through it. Like it's together.
It's
Staff are all still trying to figure it out, but we're together and we're doing good. So
services haven't slowed down or stopped at all. No, that's
no, and that was our goal, right? The
yeah.
clients are what counts in the whole thing. So, but yeah, so Big Sky Senior Services and the Adult Resource Alliance were these two organizations. Both of them have been around since the 70s, but different senior service programs that they had kind of pulled into their umbrellas over the years. And our orgs have probably talked off and on for the last 10 years or so about like, should we just be one organization or not? But I also think it takes the right leadership to make that happen. So Erica Purington, our CEO, and myself really sat down and said, like, we want to draw a vision for serving older adults in our community that's going to extend into the future from here because we had such great legacies to build on from 50 years of already serving the community. And so we said, let's do this now. Let's get a group together and let's start building this vision. And so, you know, literally, Dave, in 8 months, we have put it all together.
That's
Um,
incredible.
and the team is, I have to give kudos to the folks we work with, right? The team is what made that possible. And they kept serving all the way through all the changes and stuff like that. And I think our seniors really noticed this commitment to be present to them in that process. So,
Well, and working with seniors too, it can be how do I put difficult. Is not quite
yeah,
the right word to tell
totally.
them this is happening because they might worry about, is this going to change what is this going to change what we've been seeing or what we've been receiving. So I'm sure that was a lot of it too, just assuring folks that things are going to happen, right?
Big worry when we changed the name too. Why are we changing the name? And I said, it's so everyone can come together. And we kept like telling folks that. They're like, okay, but we want a different name. And so we keep going through the names. It'll happen for another year or so. But the real goal there was like building up this idea of it's not just folks that are young helping folks that are older. This organization is really about everyone supporting aging in our community.
Mhm.
And so that was the big change in the name for us to Allies in Aging.
Well, tell us a little bit, what are some of those programs? Looking on your
Yeah,
website, there certainly is a long list of things.
totally.
Obviously the Meals on Wheels program, which we'll talk obviously a lot about, but
Yeah.
pay services, care partners, dementia's thing. There's just so much. And I really want to hear more too about this Circle of Care
Oh yeah, you
program.
got it. That'd be great. I'd love to share more. So I could go. I have a long list, so let me just do a few. Otherwise, we'd be here for a while. Because what I've been finding is, what you talked about earlier is like we were just good wraparound services is what we're trying to do. But also, the other thing we're really trying to do, Dave, is network with the other services in our community that can support seniors and get that well done. So our resource center is the thing I'll highlight big time. We got a group of really committed individuals in our community services area that are set up to take phone calls and direct folks towards services really well, um, including helping folks this last, month and a half into December, helping folks with Medicare Part D, right? Like almost
Right.
like hundreds of folks in our community are going through that process with us right now. And so just an incredible support for our community with that. Um, Other services that are really unique and cool for us, one of them is an in-home care program that we offer.
Mhm.
And that's based on an idea that not everybody can afford in-home care. And so we use state, federal, and county funds to do a sliding fee scale for that. So it costs $26 an hour, but based on your income, you can pay as little as $2.60 an hour. Um, and that one's one of my favorites because, man, the need for in-home care is just growing so much, and we're trying to keep that program connected and alive and really connected to folks in their homes. So,
And
but
when you
yeah,
mentioned the funding, are you using Older Americans Act Title $3 for a lot of this? Okay.
yeah, different of the Title III funds for a lot of those services for sure. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, and then another thing we do have a bunch of meal sites, which is why it's easy for us to have a centralized kitchen. So. We serve about 10 senior centers in the county with food.
These are your
And
congregate sites, so they're all coming out of the
yeah,
same kitchen. Okay.
exactly. Most of them are the same kitchen. A couple we actually had contract because they're far enough out in the county with like local
Mm.
providers. But most of it comes from our central kitchen. And just in Billings alone, we have, counting on one hand here, we have 5 meal sites just in the city itself here.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I assume there's a lot of crossover between folks getting meals at congregate or home delivered versus, and having the home health care workers and
Definitely.
a lot of the same people.
Yeah, and we actually, one of the cool parts about the merger of the two organizations is
Mm-hmm.
through our resource center, we're developing a centralized intake process so that, those folks that come on to Meals on Wheels or come on to an in-home care program, we do a little bit more assessment to see if they need those additional supports so that they can stay independent longer.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's been really fun to develop in the transition because we have a community health worker that goes out and does these assessments, and we actually have the ability to call in an occupational therapist to do some evaluation too. So
That's
that's really
fantastic.
cool. So yeah.
Do you really get to know these people, maybe better than they wanted you to know?
Usually they're excited. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard some great stories, but you asked though, Dave, about our senior circle of care
Sure.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was started probably 2 or 3 years ago by one of our current directors that I work with. And the big goal in that was this idea of not every service is a fee for service kind of thing, or and we need get some volunteers who not necessarily want to. Meals on Wheels is awesome, but there's other ways to serve, and so the Senior
Mm-hmm.
Circle of Care is really focused on other ways of helping folks, and so we've looked for volunteers that can help with, small in-home repairs, and we have a small budget to help folks with that. We have some great volunteers that do a Pantry Pals program where they actually go shopping for seniors, which is really cool to see that happen. We have a few folks that help with just volunteer transportation for folks too, and so it really helps connect those folks. But
Is that I read about is it Chore Corp?
yeah, that's that. Then the chore core is actually some folks who can do some basic stuff around the house too.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and we actually don't find as many volunteers for that. Most of the time, we have to do the in-home care for folks.
Mm.
But the grocery shopping is really popular for sure. And folks really love doing that. So,
Well, what is the grocery store situation in some of these areas? I imagine in the rural areas it can be, a distance.
yeah, and actually work a lot with our county health team because there's some serious, and you've heard this, Dave, I'm sure before, the
No.
food desert idea.
Mm-hmm.
But we have some serious places without grocery in our community or in our county, especially. And so folks that are willing to drive for folks who can't do that anymore and go run to the store and purchase some stuff. And it can be, I mean, probably at the farthest point in our county, probably 80, 90 miles from a grocery store. And so,
Wow. I can't
yeah,
even
so,
imagine.
yeah. So yeah, so I'm sure it's valuable for a lot of those folks. Even in town though, like we have transportation in our community, but it's not quite to the level for
Mm-hmm.
seniors to use really easily.
Sure.
And so a lot of folks who just who can't drive anymore need that little bit of support too. So.
Well, Jack, a little bit looking back, maybe prior to the merger, your organization that you were with prior to Big Sky and
Yeah.
with Allies and Aging, were you both kind of serving different, having different? Did you have different services? I'm sure you were serving like maybe some of the same people,
Yes.
but it's that makes sense that you would come together. Makes it a
Yes.
little easier too if you don't have to compete.
Exactly. Beauty of the services is we didn't have, for some reason, and in good measure, I think both our orgs was really conscious through the years not to duplicate services. And so the services at Big Sky and the services at the Adult Resource Alliance were they were all the different kinds of services that were needed. So we were getting Older Americans Act at Big Sky as well as at the Alliance. So money was coming into both orgs. And Big Sky mostly had the in-home care and then also representative payee services. And those were our two big programs at Big Sky before the merger. So
Okay. And any lessons from the merger that you came out if other folks are looking at something similar?
Oh man. So first of all, if you can see a vision for how it can support your community, well worth it, I think. And ask me again in a year, Dave. Like we'll know if it was well worth it, right? But so worth it from my aspect. Looking even at fundraising and the ability to pull in more expertise to do our work. Um, you know, we did it really quickly. I was actually kind of opposed to that at first when we were thinking about it. And I was like, I don't know, and I had to be convinced to go quicker.
Pull that Band-Aid off.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I would not have done it any differently because it was even felt long doing it the way we did it. And so if you're thinking like I need a year and a half to get through this, like as long as everything can line up well, it shouldn't take that long. Because and then here's the last piece of advice I would say, Dave. We hired a consultant that was business focused, not nonprofit focused, who had done mergers before, so they could align all of the business pieces really well for us.
Right.
So,
yeah. I mean, and this is nothing against you or anybody there, but in my experience working with nonprofits, we're not always focused on the business side of things. That's not why we got into this.
Yep, we got a lot of good hearts who are willing to serve folks, but not everybody seems to be willing to kind of buckle down when you have to look at all the financials and how it makes it happen.
So, well, I imagine the boards were probably pretty integral in all this too.
Oh my gosh, and an amazing set of boards who, I mean, folks have asked me, Dave, like, well, what did you do? You had two boards, like a lot of graceful people who said like, hey, I'm ready to step away. We actually merged both boards pretty equally, which I wasn't expecting because Big Sky was budget-wise quite a bit smaller than the Alliance. From a program side and like a spirit side, I think we were pretty like on the same page with everybody. But man, yeah, we have a really great combined board. And it's almost like you got a new organization out of it. So we got a lot of startup mentality too, of like, okay, now's the time to do this stuff. So
well, I suppose this is the time. All these things you've been thinking about doing, but this is a perfect time to do those things.
Yeah, and again, all the credit to staff because man, perseverance through this is hard work because it's a lot of change quickly. So folks, some of our folks have been with our organizations for 40 years, so like that's a long time to all of a sudden face a bunch of change. So
I imagine. Well, you mentioned a little bit about the fundraising aspect of it all too, and I know that's some of the work you're doing now with the Allies, and not that you weren't doing it before, I'm sure as well, but
yep,
maybe more focus. I don't know. But what are some of your challenges there? Has the merger affected that at all?
But one of the reasons we did the merger, Dave, was to increase our capacity in that area. We had some dedicated staff to fundraising, but a lot of it was focused on event-based fundraising. And so we really, I apologize for the notifications.
That's okay.
We worked pretty hard to shift our giving mindset from event-based. So we're still going to do some really cool fundraisers next year, but we're keeping those really focused. And we're starting to work on donor development and talking with our donors and having them come see the meal site and engage in the process more than we did in the past. And the reason is that we really think we've got some really good folks who care about us, but that they don't always know how their contributions are making a difference. And if they knew more, they would probably give us more. The other side of that too, Dave, with the merger is better grant writing and better large donor engagement. So looking at foundations and stuff too.
What are some of the larger foundations in your area that you work with?
The Murdoch Foundation's the big one that everyone kind of goes for. They're out of Oregon, but it'll be one of the ones we look at. And then there's a couple different trusts that folks look at that are part of the Montana nonprofit area. So, but Montana's unique too because we don't have a ton of foundations actually, Dave. That's the interesting thing. So.
So a lot of okay. I mean, individual giving, I assume too, is a big part of that,
Yes.
and that's of course where your events come in. But events can cost a lot of money too. So I mean,
And actually, individual giving is way more effective. And and again, I just want to speak to the folks that do Meals on Wheels. Like,
mhm,
Meals on Wheels is a really attractive and easy thing to explain to folks. And man, one of the things that was such a blessing from the alliance and the merger was how many folks gave just because of the Meals on Wheels program.
sure.
They love the idea of feeding folks who can't get out and who can be supported that way. And so that's a lot of our donations coming in as people really committed to that. So
Well, and, we hear that from a lot of organizations that have more than just the Meals on Wheels programs. That Meals on Wheels sometimes can take a center stage when it comes to the fundraising. It's easy to understand. People know it. It's
definitely, yeah. It's such a straight, like you said, people know it, but it's such a straightforward thing to describe, right? Like when I'm trying
mhm,
to tell people what a representative payee is, and if folks listening don't know, basically you get their social security check and open a bank account and pay all their bills for folks who really are struggling with that, and then give them the rest.
mhm,
Um, that's a long thing to describe to somebody, but hugely helpful to the folks that really need it.
for sure.
It's really easy to say, we pack up meals and take them to folks who need them. Like it's just so much straightforward. So
Well, I'm sure, and understand you recently have gone out on some rides as well for delivery.
yeah, Dave. Yeah, no, I got one of the cool opportunities, and I had participated some with our Meals on Wheels in Billings before, but
Hmm.
in my position, got to go do a ride along with someone who's been doing it for like 30 years, and actually used to do it in Alaska and moved down here with his wife after they retired, and because his wife and him had grown up in the area.
Hmm.
Um, and he took me out on a route. One of the things that was really interesting, one question you asked earlier, I got to meet some of the clients that we had served with in-home care that I
Yeah,
hadn't seen face to face, which was cool. But the most interesting piece of that was came across one older adult who clearly had been moved to the area recently by family. They were trying to figure out what to do, but the family had chosen to put a child protective lock on the inside of the door, so they couldn't get out of the house. So big safety concern for us.
hmm,
Um, and got to work with our longtime driver and our Meals on Wheels coordinator to let Adult Protective Services know what was going on. And luckily, it sounds like the family was able to be worked with really quickly, and we're able to get her into a safe place to live. So
that's great.
love when that happens. Such a hard story, and I could tell the family was struggling so much. Probably an individual who had early memory loss of some
Sure.
kind, and they just didn't know how to keep her safe. And so hopefully, I think this will be a good thing. But it's one of those moments where you're like, okay, our driver could see that he's making a difference in a real tangible way. Man, he followed up and asked me about it too, Dave, of course, right? Like, what happened? Like, the person's not on my route anymore. Are they okay?
Oh,
Like,
right. I'm sure he's
and
thinking the worst.
so yeah, so doing some good work to like share, like the individual went to a safe place,
Hmm.
and really letting him know what we could know again, because we try to keep some privacy for those clients too.
Of
So
course. Well,
yeah,
that also brings up things like other organizations that obviously you're working with,
yeah,
that you're
totally.
referring people to. What are some of the other organizations you partner with?
Oh yeah. I'll highlight one I was just working on a story on today. So we actually get all of our county mill levy money
Oh,
directly to our organization, and we get to give out grants to the senior centers and others. But one grant we give out each year is to what is it's a nonprofit here that does a food bank and a thrift store, and they do a lot of the low income supports called family services. But they do our commodity program, our senior commodity box program here in our county. And so we get to give them some money. And that way they can provide and do a way better job than we do, because we don't have food storage
sure.
like they have, of getting those commodity boxes put together and out to seniors. So that's one extra support. Um, and
So I'll
got to
say
do
it'd
it.
be tough for a food shelf if some folks are living out, 70,
Yep.
60, 80 miles away, whatever you
Oh
said.
man. And then the question is, how do you get it out to folks? And so that's one of the
Hmm.
other things we're helping tackle with them is They have a great proxy process, but how can we encourage more folks to be willing to go pick up those boxes for folks? The boxes also weigh 35 pounds, Dave. So
So
asking,
you're limited in which volunteers can do this work.
well, and I also have to say, you ask a senior to pick that box up themselves,
That's
if
true,
they're,
right?
80 years old and they have the limited mobility, like that's just a hard thing. And so how do we help folks get those? So yeah. That's a
Yeah.
great example. The other thing we do is we partner greatly with our county health department on
Mhm.
looking at gathering more data on what's needed for senior care and support, and then working with our local hospital systems to encourage, really age-friendly, age-positive approaches to healthcare and engagement. So,
Well, I mean, Meals on Wheels programs all across the country, we're the most connected with the senior populations. And I think
yeah,
I wish more organizations, hospitals, or government agencies would take advantage of that.
yes,
Some do, some don't. But I think it's, part of it's on us too to make sure that, they know we're there to do it. But
exactly, yeah.
what now, looking at your background, I tell me a little bit about how you came to where you're at.
Man, that's so cute. I don't know if do you have another half hour, Dave? We'll keep going. No, I'm just kidding. So Dave, I actually went through college, graduated, decided I wanted to go into ministry and served as a United Methodist pastor. Still am a United Methodist pastor.
Hmm.
Served local churches for 10 years in Montana. And right after COVID, which it was partially COVID, but there was also some other stuff happening, just kind of with where my family was at, decided I wanted to serve a different way. And the director of Big Sky, we've talked a lot about,
Hmm.
reached out and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about leading a nonprofit?" And I said, "Well, just as it is, I'm looking for something right now." And so applied for that, and actually had a choice between a church I might go serve and that nonprofit, and said, I want to try this, and have had an incredible experience, and never saw myself, Dave, in aging services.
Hmm.
That was not something I had even considered, and have just learned so much about the need, but also exciting things to me about what we can be doing in our communities. So Dave, I'm peddling this book all over the place, but I'll just share it
No,
with you.
please,
It's a
please.
great book called The Longevity Imperative.
Okay.
Um, and really encourage folks to read it. I have no connection to it, so I'm not getting anything out of telling folks about it. But one of the best books I've read about how we should be shifting our communities to be more age positive, and get us moving to a place where our communities support the aging process, not just living longer, but really support the aging process. So,
Well, you mentioned earlier, it's that independent, living independently longer, and that's really,
exactly.
one of our missions. And
Yeah.
real quick aside, I just talked to a program here where I'm at in Minnesota. We do some partner work together, advocacy work at the state legislature, and they have this. They went to a meeting, and the funeral directors representatives were at this meeting, and couldn't figure out exactly why. Where was their concern in this issue of funding for Meals on Wheels, and it goes back to they're looking at our work as helping folks stay in their homes longer independently and not having to go to nursing homes. Now, for them, it's all financial because when they go to nursing homes, they spend all their money before they die, and they don't have
Yeah,
funerals.
absolutely.
So I'd never thought of this, but yes, they joined. This is very recent, where they were, as a part of a meeting to help advocate for more funding for Meals on Wheels.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to hear that. And to me, Dave, having worked with funeral directors as a pastor,
I'm
um,
sure.
they actually are deeply invested in the community. So for them to come do it, again, there's a financial incentive in some ways for them, but there's
Sure.
also a reality by which they're saying, like, we want quality of life for folks that we care for to be better. And so
Hmm.
I love that they're like stepping it up. So
No.
yeah, that's
Great.
awesome.
Well, I tell you what, it just went by quickly. I'm really hoping that we can touch base again in the future to
I
see
would
where
love
this
that.
merger is going and how things are moving forward. With obviously a lot of things are changing outside of our control here too.
Absolutely, for all of us. So
Yeah. Well, if folks wanted to reach out to you, what's the
yeah.
best way they can?
Yeah, sure. I encourage them just to call me at our organization, 406 259 9666, or go to alliesandaging.org. And you can just use the contact. Ironically, my department's the one in charge of the website. So if you message the website, I'll get the message right there.
There you
So
go.
I love it. So
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you again for this. And I, again, look forward to talking to you at a later date. Thank you.
perfect. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you, Tyler. I can't wait to follow up with him and see how things are going with their merger and plans for senior programming. Like many of us that work for Meals on Wheels, you can really tell Tyler's love for his community is very strong. If you have any ideas for a program you'd like me to highlight on Behind the Meal, drop me a note. As always, please subscribe and share us with your friends. Until next time, thank you for listening and for all the work you do.